evening, everybody, and welcome back to another fabulous season of VolTalk. My name is Courtney Cox, and I'm so honored to be on your screen tonight. Today, for Vol Experiences, we have Ashley Blamey and Sarah Thomas from our UTK Title IX office. I just want to say thank you all so much for coming. These individuals work diligently in our office to help educate students on consent and help those who have been affected by sexual assault. Just to preface, there may be some mentions of things like rape and assault in this episode, and if you feel uncomfortable, you are completely okay to tune out. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of VolTalk and for another new season. So to kick off this interview, I just want to first of all say thank you all so much for coming. I know it's been very hectic, it's been very busy. I just want to say thank you all so much for taking time out of your schedule to come and speak on VolTalk. So for those who don't know what exactly is Title IX, what is it and what does the office do for our campus?
Sure. So Title IX, it started, was signed into law in 1972 by Richard Nixon. Title IX is an access statute, and so it's actually quite a short statute, but the expectation is anyone who receives federal funding has a responsibility for access without sex discrimination, and that is in admissions processes, academics, athletics, and then in the broader scope, sexual harassment is included under that umbrella. And so our office addresses a number of issues. We work with pregnant students to ensure their access. We work with departments. We work with athletics. I think more commonly people think of that work now is around sexual assault, sexual misconduct. We also deal with stalking and relationship violence for the campus. We do a number of things. We are responsible for the campus policy. We're responsible for oversight for prevention and education. We're responsible for support and interim measures. We're responsible for adjudication, and we're responsible for trends. So if there is a trend we see in reporting, or if there is some sort of uptick we see around certain times, our responsibility is to recognize that and put in infrastructure and whatever that needs to look like to reduce the likelihood of harm.
Wow, okay. So you mentioned like the trends. I was wondering if you could explain like what are some steps that UT has taken to like prevent like assault on campus, and just overall steps in general, just to mention all the things that you mentioned.
Sure, absolutely.
So
all the things you mentioned. So I think I'll start with the prevention. Prevention is, I think, what's unique about what UT Knoxville is committed to, and specifically our Office of Title IX. I'm the Title IX coordinator for UT Knoxville, but also the UT system. And my background is unique in that role in that I'm not a lawyer. Most people who do this work are lawyers. My doctorate is in social work, and part of our commitment to this work is having someone in this role who really looks at this as from a social ecological model. We consider prevention starting with the individual student all the way up to policy and process. And so we have what's called an annual prevention plan. It's established by our office in concert with the Center for Health Education and Wellness, with athletics, with sorority and fraternity life, with student organizations, which is a number of sort of groups that have an investment. And what we do is, starting before a student even arrives on campus, there's an online module we ask them to take about social responsibility that the University of Tennessee developed with grant dollars. All the way to graduation, students are exposed to messaging experiences that includes orientation, welcome week throughout the academic year. When we see upticks or concerns, red zone, we do a huge series of events in April. So raising awareness, educating on prevention, educating on individual responsibility around consent, and that is a year-long process.
Wow, okay. So what are the like appropriate consequences that UT is taking to combat sexual assault and things like stalking and relationship violence on our campus?
So responses to, so if an individual wants to make a report, if a student wants to make a report, and Sarah will talk about her role because she does a really unique service for the university, but if a student wants to make a report and they are willing to move through our process, the university's process, the university controls just this space of land we occupy, and so the harshest consequence a person can receive is expulsion, removal from the educational institution, and so the range is from nothing if the person was not found responsible, all the way up to expulsion, and across the gamut in between. And that is tiered based on the experience, based on the reported allegation, based on the investigation, and so that is very individualized per case.
Okay. So switching to Sarah because it's been. I'm trying to think. So, can you kind of like explain like what is consent? Because I know people always talk about consent, but what is it? Because I know some people just don't know. They just were never taught. Like, I don't
No,
know.
that's a good question. And we actually start talking about consent. Our office partners with other offices on campus, so the Center for Health Education and Wellness, the Office of Student Conduct, we all partner together to start talking about consent with students when they come in as first-year students. So at summer orientation, we talk to every first-year student and every transfer student about our definition of consent, our policy, and things like that. So our definition of consent here is an active agreement to participate, and that can be in words and or conduct. And so we kind of walk through with students at orientation specifically, what can that look like? We talk a lot about the importance of communication, and that's something I think is one of the most important things that people can do, especially if they're engaging or trying to engage in a sexual act, is you have to communicate.
And speaking of communication, I was wondering, like, why do people like fear to report an assault on campus, like especially if it has to involve the authorities? Like, how can you kind of dispel like the tensions and the fears around telling someone?
Right. So I think that's a really good question. And I think that is historically what we've seen a lot of, certainly not just at our university, but at other colleges and universities across the U.S., people are concerned about, if I come forward and give this information, what does that mean? Am I going to lose control of that information? And I think that's an important thing to consider. So one of the things I think that causes some people to be unsure about reporting is what's going to happen to my information. There's also, I think people fear retaliation. People fear, loss of friend groups, loss of, sort of people choosing sides maybe. And I think there's a lot of different things that go into that. What I always tell students when I'm meeting with them is reporting, whether to the university, certainly to law enforcement, it's a really deeply personal decision that only they can make for themselves. And I think that's really important, especially in a situation where you've had your control sort of taken away, that you have the control over how you report.
So after a student has taken the steps to report, what are some like post-trauma like counseling that a student can seek out once they've taken that first step? Like, what is the next step for them mentally?
Right. So some of the first things that we do if a student comes to our office is kind of my main two priorities, immediate priorities are medical care and what did I just forget the other? Counseling, thank you. And also safety. That is a huge one. And so medical care, we would want to immediately get them connected either to the ER or to the Sexual Assault Center of East Tennessee. That they're a huge partner for us on this campus, and they're an off-campus resource. They're not affiliated with the university. They do so much for our students, and they come to all of our events. But they can provide medical care like a SANE exam. They provide free advocacy, free therapy, free support groups for students, and we have wonderful advocates that work closely with our office. Medical care is a huge piece, obviously, whether a student chooses to go to the ER or to the Sexual Assault Center of East Tennessee, and then counseling is a huge piece. So we have the Student Counseling Center on campus, which is confidential. If some students, it's really preference. Some students want something that's separated from the university, and we understand that. So if a student doesn't feel comfortable being at the counseling center, or they want to establish maybe more of a long-term relationship, if they're about to graduate or something like that, then we would want them to be connected to the Sexual Assault Center because they can do ongoing therapy there.
Okay, wow. So how can students help a fellow Vol if they have been assaulted? Like if a friend comes to another friend, like what are the steps that that person should take? Like what's a good means to be a good support system to someone who has been sexually assaulted, like to put it in the simplest terms?
Yeah. I think first and foremost, and I said this before, but reporting and kind of what you do with your story and with your experience is a really personal decision. I think a lot of times people have really good intentions and they think, I'm going to go and tell people what happened. I think it's really important to ask your friend, what do you need right now? And might not even know what they need, and that's okay. Not everybody has to have it figured out, and you probably won't have it all figured out right in that moment. I think immediate would be medical care. Do they want to go to the sexual assault center? The sexual assault center is a 24/7 resource, so they can always be reached. They have a hotline, they have a website, and UTPD does free transports for students to the sexual assault center as well. I think so. Medical care. Do you need medical care? Do you want to talk to somebody confidential? What do you need to do right now? And kind of ask them what they need. And I think that looks very different for everybody.
I think it's also good for friends to know that you can call and get advice without providing information. So like if someone wanted to call our office and just say like, something's happened to my friend and this is kind of, you know, here's what I think they might need, can you help me? We can identify resources, we can provide information, we can make referrals, and no one has to tell us who they are. If someone tells us who they are, then we have some mandatory responsibilities around that, but we work really hard to ensure that we're the most accessible as possible, and if that's a barrier for someone, like I don't want to tell you my name, you absolutely don't have to. And so they can call us, or they can call the Sexual Assault Center of East Tennessee if they want to call somebody off campus and just say, this is what happened for my friend, because nobody is an expert in this. And so, and oftentimes when a friend is relying on you, you need support too, because it's a lot to try to help someone. And so I would always encourage people just to know you don't have to do it alone.
And there's also 974 Help. That's a great resource on campus as well. Again, it's a 24/7 resource. Students can call 865-974-HELP. And if it's after hours or on the weekends or when the university is closed, a trained professional will answer, and it can be kept confidential. So that's another great resource if somebody just needs to call and say, this is going on, I'm not sure what to do, and somebody can kind of walk them through the options.
Okay, and I guess just to wrap up the interview, where exactly is the Title IX office located if someone wants to go and go to the office?
We're at 1817 Melrose. We don't have our name on our sign. It was something students told us early on. We just moved into that building 2 years ago, and it was something students said early on that they would feel less comfortable if the sign said sort of Title IX really bigly. But it's 1817 Melrose. We're located just across the street from Fred Brown on the back side of Melrose.
Wow, okay. Well, thank you so much, Sarah and Ashley. I hope this epidemic and this problem will somehow, some way become resolved. But I appreciate what you all do on this campus, and your work, I promise you, it's not in vain. So I just want to say thank you all once again for coming onto the show. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of VolTalk. Up next, we're going to have Matt and Mara with the newly rebranded Hot Topics. Thank you so much and have a great evening.
Welcome to Unwarranted. Here, you'll learn about actual real technology.
With three different teams, you can focus on what you want to work on.
We'll get you into tip-top shape to help exercise your comedic ability.
You'll learn handy skills and gain much needed experience.
For example, you can focus on
Writing! Production! Editing! And most importantly, we're great co-workers. Friends.
My name is Adam Crabtree. I'm a senior here at the University of Tennessee. I am majoring in journalism, electronic media. I'm one of the executive producers on VolTalk, and I'm also a member of the commercial production unit. How professional it is like the biggest surprise. because this is all a bunch of students coming in here. You know, we have faculty members that like advise us, but at the same time, it's all student ran. Every decision's made by the students, and how professional the atmosphere is. At the same time, it's still enjoyable and fun. It's a great learning experience. What's up? What's up? I've always enjoyed being on the sets. It's always like a second home to me. I always feel at home. This is what I want to do. I started out as like an audio guy. I was in charge of making sure all the guests were mic'd properly and the levels were appropriate. Hey Justin, can you count to 10 for me? Did that for about a year, and then like my third semester, started in a producing role and just helping out with during the set, like making sure all the cameras were where they needed to be, and we had all the materials we needed for each show. The executive producer now, we're making sure the whole show's ready to go. And just to be able to step into like more of a leadership role and actually take on the responsibilities of getting the show off the ground has been kind of stressful at times, but it's been a great experience to learn this here. Besides going out in the real world and just like being thrown in the fire and not having any background or any experience beforehand. To know how to like conduct myself in a professional environment while still maintaining having fun and getting the job done is something that I probably could not have replicated anywhere else on campus.
Welcome to Unwarranted. Here, you'll learn about actual real technology.
With three different teams, you can focus on what you want to work on.
We'll get you into tip-top shape to help exercise your comedic ability.
You'll learn handy skills and gain much needed experience.
For example, you can focus on
Writing! Production! Editing! And most importantly,
we're great co-workers. Friends.
Hey everybody, I'm Mara McJilton.
I'm Matthew Boshears.
And we are no longer Hot Topics, as Courtney mentioned. We are now Vol Life. So welcome to our new segment. It's nothing too different from what we had before. But first, we just wanted to thank Courtney and our guests for coming in to talk about the Title IX office and what their mission is on this campus. But that is something that we definitely take very seriously on this campus. And our campus is lucky to have that resource here. Mm-hmm. So now that they have talked about Title IX, we kind of want to talk about their partner with the Office of Equity and Diversity. So we can get into some of that for right now.
Yes, so as you all heard in the interview, Title IX office focuses on sexual assault, relationships, stalking, and all that. Going hand in hand with that is the Office of Equity and Diversity. This office focuses on the inclusion of all people on campus, regardless of their race, gender, sexual orientation, cultural beliefs, or anything of that matter, really.
Yeah, and so in order to contact the Title IX office, I know they gave you their phone number. They have forms on their websites to report incidents, but their phone number, to repeat that, is 865-974-9600. And they're also located, their office is located at 1817 Melrose Avenue, which is behind Fred Brown Hall. Their sign does not have the Title IX office name on it, but that is something that is easy to find. It's one of the only little house buildings behind Brown Hall.
It's right there in Church Row.
Yeah.
Now, through the Office of Equity and Diversity, they offer diversity programs which are available in each of the different colleges on campus. The purpose of these programs are to have mentoring programs for students who may need any kind of help or support, and they also serve to help recruit students who are underrepresented in their respective field of study. So, I mean, oftentimes people of minorities have, a hard time coming to college and getting where they need to be. So that's what they really focus on.
Yeah. And from what I've heard from other students, I mean, I know I'm in the ag college and then I'm also up here in the communications college. And from what students have told me in classes, that these programs are very, very helpful for them because it actually is an issue today that students are underrepresented. So we're lucky that our campus has these resources available. So in addition to these diversity programs, there are 7 councils and commissions at the Office of Equity and Diversity. The 3 commissions are for women, blacks, and the LGBT community. And these commissions are appointed by the chancellor basically to ensure the inclusion of all students on campus. You know, there's so many different groups out there, and our campus really wants to ensure that everyone feels included and respected on this campus.
Definitely. And one of the councils that Mara talked about is the Council of Diversity and Interculturalism. Pardon me. This council advises campus administration to ensure a welcoming, supportive, and inclusive campus for people of all ethnic backgrounds or cultures. It really goes a long way in ensuring that everyone feels welcome here.
Yeah. And then I know also in my classes, I actually have a lot of veteran students in my classes for all of my agricultural communications classes. And that's something that all the veteran students, they always tell me that their resources that they have available to them are very helpful. So maybe you want to talk a little bit more about that.
So the veterans have a distinct support system set up for them. It's called Veteran Student Services, and their goal is to bridge the gap between student veterans and having a good time on campus. Obviously, veteran students sometimes have challenges and hardcomings that they have to overcome that normal students like you and I wouldn't.
Right.
So this office really focuses on them, gives them a personal relationship, you know, with a counselor, and just helps them with anything they need, any adjustments they need coming back to campus, or just anything really. It's a really great resource.
For sure, for sure. And then lastly, we have the Stop Bias Council, which is their goal is just to maintain a safe environment on campus with that everyone has civil actions respected for everyone. So those are our commissions and councils that are available on campus. So there's some really great resources that we have, and I really encourage everyone to put them to good use if you need the help.
Definitely. There is a place for everyone on this campus, regardless of any cultural backgrounds that we may come from or any differences that we have. We're all students. We're all here to get an education and to, you know, figure ourselves out. And the Title IX office and the Office of Equity and Diversity are focused on just making that experience as great as it can for you. So if you need any kind of support, any kind of counseling or anything, please do not hesitate to go to either of those offices.
Yeah, and really do not be ashamed to go to any of these offices. If you do need to utilize these resources, that is the purpose of them. That's what they're there for. So if you need to report an incident, you can go to the Office of Equity and Diversity, which is located at 1840 Melrose Avenue, so just down the street from the Title IX office. And their phone number is 865-974-2498. So that's about all we have for you guys today. We really hope that you learned something about resources that you might not have known of before on this campus. So we're going to head back to Courtney, and we will see you guys next time.
Thank you all so much for watching another episode of VolTalk. I'm so glad that you all have decided to tune in to our fabulously newly rebranded season. Thank you all so much. Have a good night, and thank you so much for letting us be on your screen. Thank you.